Hey guys, so a couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to speak at Door to Door Con down in Utah. And at the same time, I was interviewed by the Solarpreneur podcast, Taylor Armstrong. He's built this awesome platform in which he teaches sales reps how to go and sell solar. I think he's got something like 350 podcasts, but I wanted to share my interview with you because this actually dives deep into like some of the principles and actual ways that I have sold. And so we actually in this interview we do a little role play, we do some sales. And the interesting thing is, like, sales applies to every single entrepreneur, every single business person. Ultimately, if you have a product or a service, you have to sell it to somebody, whether you're selling yourself in an interview or whatnot. So you're going to love this podcast. Dive into this guy, you're gonna love it.
All right, what's going on? We are here with the one, the only QB of Life.
Let's go.
Not one, but this is the second time actually coming on the podcast. So we'll introduce him here a little bit more in a second. But thanks for joining us 2 times now, Chris.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been fun. We're actually here at Door to Door Con. But Chris, he was actually, I think, one of the first guests that we ever had on the podcast.
I believe so. That was a handful of years ago.
Yeah, probably at least 3 years ago now, I think. So a lot has gone on, and we're excited to catch up with Chris, hear what he's up to, jam with him for a little bit. But he's known as the QB of Life. And you just recently sold your solar company, Solgen. Is that right, Chris?
That's right.
Okay. So he's still pretty involved in solar, but he's got his own podcast doing some cool things with that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, talk a little bit about branding, and of course, some sales skills, as always. So, yeah, Chris, do you want to just, I don't know, maybe catch us up, Reader's Digest version, what you've been up to since, 3 years ago, since we last talked?
Yeah, I mean, so we launched my solar company out of my garage. I can't remember when I was on here last, if we were still operating out of the garage. We operated there for 2.5 years out of the garage, and we started business end of 2017. So it was like beginning of, what year was that? Beginning of 2019, we moved out of the garage.
Yeah.
So ended up selling a good portion of our business to private equity in 2022. So it was May 2022. So approaching 2 years now. And then continued on. I was the CEO of that business until April of this last year. In January of this last year, we acquired a company for 9 figures. Nice. We had a 9-figure exit in 22. Then we acquired a company. It was actually a company that I had an equity piece in, that I had helped consult or whatnot. Okay. And then we took their management team. They got put in place. I stepped down as the CEO in April of 2023.
Okay.
And so since then have launched and done a bunch of other things. So launched my podcast, the Founder Podcast.
Yeah.
Had some really cool guests on there, the Ormozis, Grant Cardone, several other like billionaires. Just had a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar organization out of Canada, all kinds of publicly traded company.
Yeah.
And so that was fun. That was unique. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, man, it's been a ride, and now we're doing back. So I run the podcast, and then the back end I consult and coach and really share. I tried the whole retirement thing for about 6 weeks, and it's
not all it's
it was actually one of the most depressing moments of my life.
Wow.
And so decided that I needed to be actively creating, and the thing I'm most passionate about is educating and sharing with people, my view on life.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, and I was joking with Chris saying, man, some of these guys he's had on his podcast that he got like right off the bat. I mean, I've been doing this like 4 years consistently, and I can't even get those types of people yet. So, but yeah, I know you got a crazy good network, and you've actually done some podcast episodes on how you've been able to build your network and that have been really good. So definitely go check out his podcast. We'll put it in the show notes for guys wanting to check it out. Hear from some of the top guys he's getting on his show. But yeah, I want to hear a little bit. You said it was tough, like being retired and all that. And I think you had told that story in your podcast. But what were your feelings? Like, you built this company up. You guys had a ton of success in Washington. Sold it. what was it like? What were some of your feelings, and why was that so difficult for you to
Yeah,
like?
it's
Okay.
interesting. I've always believed this, but it's not until like you actually go through it, then you're like, oh yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Is the fact that like as entrepreneurs, as salespeople, as anyone, like we find the most fulfillment in actively creating something, right? And being engaged and doing hard things, like that is where life fulfillment happens, right? Every once in a while, we want to go on a vacation, we want to take some time off, like that's cool,
Yeah.
right? You need that, you need to recharge. But when it goes from like, this is my life's purpose from an economic standpoint of
Yeah.
building this to I no longer have a life's purpose economically,
Yeah.
it becomes very saddening. And like that for me, like I said, it was a point of depression. Like my baby essentially had grown up and I had married her off, and
Yeah.
she's no longer there. And so that was tough. And I needed to have purpose. I needed to have the ability to create again. And so
Yeah.
after a few weeks of doing that, I started thinking through what I wanted to do, what my life's work is,
Yeah.
what my mission is, and so just recreating new purpose. And of course, one of the reasons I stepped away was I wanted to spend more time with my wife, my kids, and whatnot. And so I've been very on purpose, like now making sure my life is designed with them first and foremost.
Yeah.
January has been a little crazy. I'm now in my 5th different city in 25 days.
Yeah.
And I've been home, I think, a total of 6 days in January,
Holy cow.
but very much on purpose because like I'm just kind of running a thing. But now, I'm going to go home, spend some good quality time with my family, go and spend a couple weeks in India and Dubai with my wife.
Wow.
But yeah, so like what I'm creating now is very much by design.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, yeah, and it caught me off guard. I didn't know that. Like, I didn't think you guys would be selling the company because,
Yeah.
I always saw you Solgen Power, and I thought it was going to be kind of Solgen Power for life and
Right.
building it. So, was this something that you guys had been thinking about, or was it a goal for you guys, or
So it
just
was
came up later?
we always had a plan to sell the business. Stepping away from the business wasn't in the cards. Like I sold off and then rolled forward some equity, planning on being the CEO, taking the thing public.
Yeah.
March of last year, I was coming home from a wrestling tournament with 2 of my sons that they had been wrestling in. My then 14-year-old and my son, who's now 10,
Mhm.
my 15 and 10-year-old, they were in the car, and we had a drunk driver hit us head on. He was
I
coming at
remember
us
that.
120 miles an hour,
Yeah.
and it put things into like of a tailspin of like reflection, like what am I doing with my life? Is this really what I want? And meanwhile, there was like some things going on with like a board of directors that I had like just some misalignment with, and I'm just like, want to spend more time with my kids, and so I just and once again before this car wreck, like it wasn't even on the radar, and then like immediately after that, really started contemplating on it, and it was a few weeks later that I stepped down.
Yeah. Wow.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I remember seeing the photos. Car just absolutely destroyed.
yeah.
And yeah, I imagine that'd be something that like really makes you think, what am I
Yeah,
doing
it was.
with my life?
I mean, it was a miracle
Perspective.
that we walked away. Right, like my son in the back is where the car got. We veered off, and the back part got destroyed. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and we walked away with like a fat lip, and like
Wow.
just total blessing, and just a reminder that I have a different purpose in life, or I have a reason to keep living. Otherwise, God
Yeah.
wouldn't have preserved me.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah, and I know you've probably told the story many times, but have you talked to the people who hit you and stuff, and like?
Nope, never had a conversation with them. They were, 320, mid-20s guys. They were completely plastered, not wearing seatbelts. They actually walked away after rolling like 4 times. Their car was even more destroyed than mine. And, but yeah, never had a chance to talk with them. I got some court documents. The state pressed charges against them, felony charges. But outside of that, yeah, no conversation with them.
Wow. Yeah, crazy. Well, yeah, so and it's cool. And so once you did sell the company, was it like immediately you wanted, I knew you took 6 weeks or whatever, but when you were on that little 6-week mini retirement, were you thinking, okay, I'm going to start this podcast up after, I'm going to start doing the consulting, or was that something just after 6 weeks you're like, okay, this is what I want to do? How did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there was 6 weeks of like self-reflection of what I wanted to do. And for me, the podcast has always been a great avenue to be able to share the message with the world.
Yeah.
And I knew if I was going to do it, I was going to do it big. And so I immediately invested a lot of money into equipment and marketing and everything else, and getting the best people on the show.
Yeah.
Paid $0 for any of my guests, but I did invested a lot of relationships over time to be able to get those kind of guys out on there. Grant Cardone was one of the first people I reached out to. He immediately agreed to it. Same with Alex. My buddy that started and sold his business Tap Out for $120 million.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. He was one of my initial contacts, and then I've just kind of networked through it and been able to attract some really cool people on.
Yeah. That's so cool. But yeah, and so as you know, Chris, this podcast is mainly geared towards a lot of probably majority sales reps listen to this podcast. But I think we get company owners for solar, all that. Hopefully more than that, but that's kind of the target audience, right? So for you, it's been a while since you've been a sales rep, but I know you did that for how many years were you selling door to door and all that?
I sold pest control for one summer. I was in the home security space for 8 years. A couple of those years we were owning a business.
Okay.
Not knocking doors. And then I was in the solar space, knocking a couple years in the solar space, and then in management. So, my whole career has been around the sales space, whether that's door to door or virtual sales or whatnot, which is, this fall will be 19 years.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's forever. So yeah, like you've been building this personal brand a long time, and maybe some of the sales reps listening to this, they're like, okay, this guy just sold a massive company, 9-figure exit and all that. But you just spoke on the marketing panel today. So when you were actively selling and all that, did you have a personal brand built up, or like what are some of these things?
I think it's important, no matter where you're at in your career, that you build a personal brand.
Yeah.
Now, not necessarily investment of money. Like money can come later. Initially, it's investment of time and consistent effort, right? Like building a personal brand is all about consistency, being the same guy, like, or gal, like owning who you are, getting the message out to the world. I've been doing live videos since whenever Facebook started doing it, like 2013, 2014, right? Like sharing my message. And I never really started pumping money behind my personal brand until the last like year and a half. Before that, it was all just pure organic. And I never did it like in a cheap way, like I wasn't like doing giveaways or different things to build my brand. It was always just like naturally attracting people that agreed with my message. And so as a salesperson and whatnot, like I think it's very important that you are cognizant that you have to build a brand. Whether you work for somebody else or you're building your own business, you are, your name, your face is a brand. Right. And so for me, like I've always taken a lot of pride in being someone of integrity and being somebody that's authentic. And so like that is my brand that I've created. That's what I created in the door-to-door space or whatnot. Like always one that was always black and white, never shady in my sales, right? Like that's part of building a brand, especially if you're just building it as a sales career. And then realizing that, the internet is out there and whatever is posted on there will be there forever. And so, your brand, whether you're selling solar or any other product, needs to be in alignment with what you're representing at the door. Right. And so making sure you have a good bio, good, like, and it doesn't all have to be like solar. That should be a part of it. But like your brand is your life, right? Sharing what you're doing with the family. Like if your brand, they go on and they see you partying and at bars and like doing just crazy things or whatnot, there's a good chance that you're going to damage your brand with your end consumer, whether that's your employer or whether that's actually the person that's buying solar from you. And so very, very important that like whatever's documented is in alignment with what you want to represent to the world. And so that's stories, that's posts, that's reels, like that all needs to be in alignment. But once again, it doesn't have to be all for an economic value. Like for me, my brand is like God, family, business, fitness, like that whole aspect.
Yeah. Love it. And yeah, I think it's something that maybe a lot of guys don't think of. And I actually kind of had to learn it the hard way that like some of these people are smart, right? Like they're Googling us. Some people actually research things these days as much as we think they don't. I actually did a podcast a while back where I took some, like recorded footage of a cell I'd been in. put it on my podcast. And then long story short, this customer, he like Googled me, was researching me after the sale. He didn't sign the first time, but he found that I had like recorded our whole, presentation with him, and I hadn't like
You
asked him
didn't
about it or
disclose
anything.
it?
Yeah, I
Oh,
didn't
man.
disclose it or anything. And so he texts me. He's like, "Hey, man, I see you posted this. You didn't tell me we were recording, and I didn't authorize this. So don't come back. I'm not going solar with you guys."
Mm,
And we talked more, and he ended up being chill. And I think he in a way had kind of a respect that I did have. He saw that besides that, the rest of what I was doing was pretty authentic, and I was legit in
right,
solar and all that. So that kind of I think calmed him down, but still was enough that he's like,
right.
"Nah, I'm not gonna go solar with you guys."
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's like stuff like that we don't really think about, and I know we've heard from guys that have built huge organizations. Recruiting helps in that, helps in your sales. So yeah, like for just maybe the sales rep, and for you, now that you sold your company, that's what enabled you to go and start a podcast, like have all these connections right
Right,
away, right?
right. My
It's
brand.
like,
Yep,
yeah, because no way it would have been a lot harder to get like Grant Cardone and those guys
for
on.
sure.
Yeah. So it's so cool. So what are some things, someone that doesn't have a brand, maybe they're like, okay, I'm just selling, because that's how a lot of this door-to-door industry is.
Yep.
A lot of solar guys. What are some maybe like simple things that they could start doing right away if they're like,
So
okay,
first and
what was-
foremost, clean up your social media, right? Like, once again, make sure it's in alignment with what the message that you want the world to see, not just customers, not just sales reps, right? Like, and I know like a lot of times in the solar space, it's always like, show the flashy cars, watches, those type of things, because you're trying to attract sales reps, but realize your consumers are looking at that as well. And that can be a very bad thing, right? And so for me, my brand has never been cars, hose, whatever else.
Yeah.
And so, just decide, and if you're okay with consumers seeing your Lamborghini or Ferrari or whatever else, then so be it.
Yeah.
But just understand that it's got to be by design. So one, clean that up. Two, get consistent. Like a brand is a recognizable image or recognizable feeling, recognizable whatever, right? So like, I know if I go into McDonald's, I'm going to get the same experience over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to be. And so whether that's like the same clothes that you wear all the time, whether it's the same haircut. My buddy Ryan Panetta, he runs a big podcast. He's known for his colorful hair, right? Like he's got this bright blue hair or bright red hair, and that's him, right? Like if you ever say to anyone like, "Oh, do you know the colored hair guy?" They're like, "Oh yeah, Ryan Panetta." Yeah. There's so like create mental markers about, so and this goes back to being authentic. Like be who you are. Don't try and be Ryan Panetta. Don't try being Danny Pesci. Don't try being like just be you and consistently be you. That's how you build a brand. And the way you do consistently is it's got to always be out there, right? And so like stick to your message, stick to your brand, stick to what you're sharing with the world.
Yeah, and we heard a great example just for guys in door to door. We heard in your panel earlier, one of the guys, Mosiah, I got to get him on the podcast, but just from building his brand, he's built up a massive team. He gets recruits left and right, and he's just like,
it's interesting because he has every excuse in the world. Like I came from Mexico, I don't have a good English, like I have a heavy Mexican accent or Spanish accent, right? Like all the reasons why it wouldn't work, but he's just been consistent and like owned who he is, being a one of one. Right? Like that's the goal. You got to be one of one. Nobody else like you in the world, so be you, and that's where you can really create a brand.
Yeah, that's so cool. Were you seeing when you were selling? Were you seeing a lot of these things pay off? Like at the time, maybe in recruiting and in selling, or do you think it's been more of like a long term thing?
I mean, it's always long term, but yeah, it definitely is always paid off, right? Like that's what's got me referrals. That's what's got me recruits, right? Just because like my name is consistent across the board, and people know that like when they get to know Chris Lee, they know exactly what they're going to get, right? Like it's a guy that loves his family, loves God, is very authentic, is not a straight shooter, right? And so if you're out selling, or like when I was building Solgen, it was always Chris the Solar guy, right? Flat bill hat, Lululemon t-shirt, and my name was Chris the Solar guy, and consistent across the board. That, and then like recruiting, we'd always be putting out videos that were very high energy, very involved, right? Like, and that was a consistent message that we were sending to the recruits to come and be a part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and something you mentioned in your panel earlier is just speaking of recruiting. I know you guys you didn't pay the most as a company, and I think you transitioned basically all over the phone, right? You guys were just doing virtual
We
and all
did
that.
about 75% virtual, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, you guys crushed in recruiting, bought a lot of people.
Yep.
Almost recruited me at one point, but yeah, I didn't come over. Guess good thing I didn't, because you would have just left me out to dry. Now that you still-
Not out to dry. You'd still have a great
yeah.
opportunity.
But yeah, I want to speak to that and then maybe get into some sales stuff, because a lot of guys, maybe they're with companies, don't have the lowest red line. Like you hear that all the time. What's the red line? What's the red line? How much you paying? And it's something I try to talk about. Hey, it's not all about what you're getting paid. A lot of factors that go into that. So do you have any advice on like how you guys recruited and how you
Yeah.
brought people into the culture and not just made it about the money?
So first and foremost, money is never the way that it's preached, right? Like I learned earlier in my career when I was in the home security space, that it was never about the amount of money that you make per deal. It was about the total money that you make, right? Like when I went from owning my own company in the alarm space, being able to make $1,200 a deal, and actually going back and working for Vivint and making $600 a deal, right? Like you would say that they were paying me less than half. The reality is, under that pay structure, that culture, and everything that was created and that competition, I made more money as a sales rep and manager at Vivint than I ever did in running my own business. And this is the thing that guys have to get down, like more low red line, more money per deal does not mean more money. I think a lot of solar guys are experiencing this right now. It's because they went after the lowest red line, and now that installer can't afford to pay them. Yeah. Right. Like duh.
Yeah.
Like if understanding just the whole economic way that a business works, I want everybody to be extremely profitable on the whole end of the value chain. So if I'm in like a sales dealer, I want my installer to actually be incentivized to install my stuff. Right? If I got the cheapest red line with them, guess what? They're going to put other jobs in front of me.
True.
And if they don't have enough to function and be profitable, guess what? My customers are going to get terrible treatment, and they're never going to be able to afford to. So I would much rather make less money, be mutually aligned with my installer, my company or whatnot, because that's ultimately where people make the most money. And that's just the financial aspect. On top of that, you get paid in culture, you get paid in opportunity, you get paid in education. And so like aligning with a company that creates that for me, where I can learn, I can grow, I can develop, I can become the best version of myself, like that is where the real opportunity lies. And this is, when we were building our business, we were very upfront. Look, we won't pay you the most per deal. And you may not even make the most money while working here, but you get compensated in so many other ways besides money. And we'd go through them, right? We're going to help you be better physically, better economically. We're going to help you teach how you invest, right? We're going to help build your associations in the way that you give back to society and be a better father, a brother, a sister, a mother, and better spiritual human being, right? And so that always that rings home for anybody, right? Because once you start making a lot of money, you quickly realize that it's never about money, right? We're all chasing a feeling. We're all chasing something. And money provides feelings, right? Like opportunities to travel or buy something that's really cool. Like that gives us a feeling. But you can get that feeling in a whole lot more ways than just money, right? And so realizing that that's where you are truly compensated is not just in your paycheck. You're compensated across the board. So make sure you're facilitating yourself, either as a recruiter, as a business owner, as a sales rep, that whole value chain is a lot of value creation.
Yeah, that's so good. And especially for maybe managers listening to this or company owners, it's something you got to think about, because I know you're a big marketing guy, and it's like, what do they say? You shouldn't be the cheapest. You should either be the highest price and add a ton of value, or be like the cheapest. Something like that.
Yeah. Essentially in the marketplace, you should be the most expensive or the cheapest, never in between.
Yeah.
If you're going to be the cheapest, you're playing the volume game. You're making a small percentage on billions of dollars of sales, or you're going to be the highest value creator in the fact that I'm going to charge the most, but I'm going to be able to provide the most opportunity to my employees, to my end users, to everything like that. And so for me, I always love that model. I want to be the highest priced, I don't care where anybody else is in the market. You want to come and try to undercut me by 50%, go for it. You're going to soon be out of business. You're not going to be able to provide the experience that I can for my people.
Yeah, it's so good. And yeah, I think it's important for us to think about that as we're recruiting guys too, like how we creating the culture where they're being fed spiritually, mentally, physically, all these different things, becoming better people. Because if you can point to that and show like examples, hey, this rep, like he's making great money, but look, now he's like, in a better place mentally, maybe turn his life around in other ways.
So
That's you're creating a story around that, and that's way more powerful in recruiting rather than just saying, hey, this guy made $500,000 last year.
absolutely.
So I love that. So yeah, then with talking a little bit of sales here, it's funny, we were actually we were planning this podcast this morning, but it's been like a 5-hour journey to get up and actually do the podcast because Chris is down here selling. We just were on our way up. He's present his mastermind, got people interested in that. He's trying to lock down business in the hallway, uncovering their objections, not taking the maybe, all the above.
All the things, baby.
Yeah. So let's get in just as we start wrapping up here. What are some sales skills that maybe you what are like, I don't know, the top things you train your guys in as far as sales?
Yeah. So there's four principles of closing, and I'll share with you a couple of them. And they're not rules, they're principles. And the difference between a rule and a principle is this: a principle is foundational and God-made, and a rule is man-made. And the thing with a rule, a principle will always have consequences. A rule may sometimes have consequences. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
You're going the speed limit is 65 and you're going 80. What's the consequence of going 80 miles an hour?
I guess nothing until you get caught.
It could be good, it could be bad, right? Like you could get caught by the police, you could get in a wreck because you're going too fast around the corner. Right? It could be, right? Yeah. So a rule is man-made and could potentially have a consequence, could potentially not, right? So that's how you distinguish between the difference between a rule and a principle. So when I teach my guys is that there's 4 principles of closing, and they will have consequences if you do not follow them. You can't break them and not suffer the consequence. So that's the premise of this. And so principle number 1 is yes or no, no maybes. A decision must be made. And a lot of people will take this and they'll be like, well, they'll push for a decision. The person's like, well, maybe, like, I need a no. Like, okay, I'll give you a no, but I still might call you back tomorrow. That's not a decision, right? Like a decision is that they're either moving forward or they are 100% not moving forward. And the hardest thing about this is most people aren't willing to get to a decision because they're scared of the no, right? They're scared of rejection. And so as a salesperson, you have to be comfortable. You have to be totally okay with getting a no on every single door, every single appointment. You got to be totally fine in that realm, right? Because a no is more powerful than a maybe. A maybe, because what happens is if once we become okay with maybes, we begin taking maybes that should have been yeses, right? And the no's that were going to be no's, like they just didn't have the guts to tell you. And so you have to draw a line, right? It's what I call the 10-80-10 rule. 10% of the population will say yes to anything. 10 will say no to anything, and 80% will say maybe, right? They're going to balance. And the goal as a salesperson is to cut the line right down the middle, get rid of the maybes and get as many over. And now here's the crazy thing is, like, even if all 80 of those said no, right? Instead of saying maybe, they just went no, would you make more money?
Yeah, probably, because you get to the yeses quicker. Right?
Exactly. So so a lot of times when they look at this, they're like, no, like it's the same amount of yeses or whatever. But the reality is like maybes waste your time. Yeah. The callbacks, the mental effort, the like, oh, they're probably going to, the follow up, like all these different things. And so I have I know there's people that teach like 2, 3, 4 touch close, bull crap. Like I would much rather be, and as long as you come from a point of authenticity that you are there to help the customer and you're totally fine with them telling you no, customers will be totally fine getting to a decision. Yeah. Like, look, I'm not here to pressure you. I'm not here to make you say yes. I'm totally fine if you give me a no. I just know that if you put this off, this decision, you're going to be wasting your time and you're going to be wasting mine. And I care about you too much to waste your time.
That's good.
Right. And so like I am helping you by making a decision, even if the decision's no. And the example I always give is like San Diego, SDG&E, one of the most expensive utilities in the nation, right?
Yeah.
When I was selling there, it ranged from like 10 cents up to 32 cents a kilowatt hour. Now I think it's in the 50s.
Yeah. Gets up like
50s or whatever. And what percentage of San Diego has solar?
I would say like 30%.
Okay, so it's probably 25, 30 right now.
Yeah.
So why doesn't the other 70% have solar?
Probably because they're saying maybe.
Is because a sales rep screwed that customer at one point. Like you have to believe that by allowing somebody to say maybe, you are screwing that individual. Because what happens is that 70%, it's slowly getting eaten away, maybe 69, 68. But had people been committed to yes or no maybes, right? They would never spun these guys. They've forever have been looking into solar.
Yeah.
They've forever like, oh, I'm waiting for the best deal to come across the board when it finally starts making sense or whatnot. So they've wasted the time of so many sales reps. They've wasted the time. And dude, this is in a market where solar is so extremely like black or white. And now people are kicking themselves because NEM3 came out.
Exactly.
It's like, dude, the sales rep screwed those people, right? And that's what I genuinely believe. Like when I align with a product, I believe that whenever I allow a customer to take a maybe, I screwed them. That's my fault. Right? I take total ownership over that. And so like that is principle number one, has to be followed, cannot be broken. And if you can really figure that one out, you will make millions and millions of dollars over your career. And that is what I attribute to being as successful as I am.
Yeah, that's so good. Because I haven't really thought about it that way as a principle. Because I don't know, I probably thought of it more as like a rule. Like, okay, I'm going to try 2, 3, 4 times maybe, but if it's still a maybe, then.
So the issue with this is like when you break that principle, right, and you allow a maybe to slip through, and then you do that 30 times, and then you have that one person that calls back and says, yeah, Taylor, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Guess what it does? It creates a justification to always allow a customer into the maybe realm, right? Yeah. And so when you're pushing hard for yes or no maybes, you're like, wait, but that one time the Smiths did call me back, right? Yeah. So it's going to totally screw me, and I'm going to allow more and more people to go maybe rather than if I would have just pushed them to make a decision, they actually would have gone yes. Yeah. I will get way more yeses than losing out on that occasional maybe that would have called me back.
Yeah, well, that's so good. I didn't think of it that way. Yeah. Well, and so how do you think, because sometimes you get these people like you're saying, they don't want the pressure. They want to feel like they're not having to make a for sure decision. So like, what do you do to get them to think?
So first and foremost, So you have to set an expectation up front, right? Okay. If I'm going to slap you, the worst thing I can do is just slap you out of the blue. Yeah. Right. And so like, for example, I'm going to go to Taylor and say, Taylor, guess what, dude? I'm going to slap you. Yeah. It's not going to be fun. It's going to hurt a little bit, but I am going to. I just slapped Taylor, right?
Yeah, it wasn't as bad.
But here's the thing: if I would have just slapped you out of the blue, you had no idea how would you feel towards me?
Yeah, and I'm like, bro,
dude, what the freak? Like what? So this is what we do in sales.
Yeah,
we don't set proper expectations. We don't let them know that we are going to be closing them by the end of the presentation. Yeah, right. And so when we slap them, it's a jolt. It's like, where was this? Why are you trying to qualify me? Why are you get my income? Why are you asking for my social? Right? Like it's because like you didn't properly set expectations. And this expectation starts like when you collect the bill. So usually we do like a collect the bill, and then you have a second touch where you go and actually close it with a proposal, right? So at the beginning of that proposal, you have to say, hey, look, so this is the plan today. We're going to go through the 8 steps. And then step number 8 is we're going to move forward. And you talk and you use very assumptive language. So you let them know, this is what's going to happen. We're going to get you qualified. We're going to check your credit. We're going to send you a couple documents. You're going to sign them, right? Like I'm outlining exactly what's going to happen so that when I go to slap them, it's not out of the blue. So that's step number 1 is you got to set proper expectations. And when you get down there, it's not like, Chris, why are you trying to get me to make a decision? I was like, no, we talked about this. Yeah. Like, I'm totally fine if you give me a no, but like, if you're ready to move forward, well, Chris, I really need to think about it. And then I just bro down with people. Yeah. And I always, if I'm going to shoot somebody straight, I always ask for permission. I'd be like, you say, hey, I need to think about it. I'd be like, Taylor, is it all right if I shoot you straight?
Sure.
You good? You totally fine if I just like kind of hit you right where it hurts?
Yeah, I guess so.
You're good with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been in customers' homes, whatnot. When somebody tells me I want to think about it, it's a bull crap excuse. Like, this is how I talk to customers.
That's
This
good.
is literally,
That's real. Yeah,
and I say, look, it's a bull crap excuse. Like, you said you're okay with me shooting you straight, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to continue to hit you straight. Like, literally, when somebody says that, it's just their way to tell me to kick rocks. Taylor, if you want me to kick rocks, please just let me know right now. But if there is an inkling of actually wanting to go solar, you just don't have the guts to make the decision right now, let's talk through that. Yeah. Like, let's talk about what is actually holding you back. Because, dude, I'm here for you. And if here for you means you tell me no and solar's not for you, I'm fine with that. You know, I'm going to go home, I'm going to drive the same car, eat the same food, and sleep next to the same woman tonight. You ain't going to change my life. But guess what? By you making a decision to go yes, guess whose life's going to change?
Mine.
Yeah, dude, it won't change my life. Like, I will go to your neighbors, I will set them up. They're going to decide to go yes. They're going to take advantage of this thing, right? But like, I will not allow you to waste your time by telling me maybe, because then we're just going to play this tango, and you're going to get anxiety when I call you back, and you're not going to answer the phone, and you're going to be like, dude, why is this guy still calling me? It's because you told me maybe. Yeah. I don't want you to put you in that position, Taylor. Like, I'm here for you. So what is it that would help you feel comfortable making a decision today?
Well, I need to check my quotes. I need to
see
if you guys are the best deal.
Hey, perfect. So are you looking for the best price, or are you looking for the best quality?
Best quality.
So best quality? It's not about price?
Well, yeah, I guess both. Yeah, good quality.
I'm assuming you want a good balance of both, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Look, you can go and do all your shopping and whatnot, but you're going to waste time. My job in helping you is to help you save the three main resources: time, energy, and money. Yeah. Right? So time, energy, and money, I'm here to help you save it. By you going and get more quotes, you're going to spend money. Would you agree that you don't want to spend the rest of your life shopping for this thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Because otherwise you're going to end up like Fred down the street. He's been looking at solar for the last 10 years. Guess how much that's cost him?
Well, yeah, 10 years of paying his bill.
Yeah, 10 years. And guess how many sales reps he's wasted their time and wasted his?
Probably a lot.
And I refuse to screw my customers that way. Right? You're cool with me shooting you straight, right, Taylor?
Yeah.
Okay, dude, I will not screw you over. I'm going to help you get to a decision. But when I leave this table, if the decision's no, I never want you to look into solar ever again. Like, it will be a waste of your time. Good. But if the decision's yes, and I'm going to help you get there, I'm going to help you feel comfortable. Dude, if it means us calling up competitors right now and showing quotes, let's do it. I'm here to spend whatever time right now to help you feel comfortable in the decision-making process. Yes. We're not the cheapest. We're not the most expensive. In fact, I'll show you. Like, if you want the most expensive, go to A. We're not the cheapest. If you want that, like, I got their phone number right now. I'll give it to you. Nice. But I'm assuming you're not in this just to be the cheapest.
Yeah. No, both.
Okay.
Yeah, both.
So, dude, let me help you get to a point of comfortable. Like, what else do you need to know to be comfortable in moving forward today?
Oh, well, I guess that's the main thing, but I don't know. We usually just kind of like think about things before we sign and all that.
Okay, cool. Is it right if I shoot you straight again?
Yeah, I guess.
Sweet, man. What happened in your life that made you be that way?
Well, just one time we got a car and we found out later, we bought it pretty quick, and then we found out that it had a bunch of problems. It was like a used one.
Cool.
So we just felt like we made too quick of a decision, didn't do our due diligence. So.
Dude, I agree. That sucks.
Yeah. Like,
dude, if I'm sitting with you and got a lemon of a vehicle, that I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, the reality is like, you never know what you're going to get with a car.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not asking you, Taylor, to take my word for it. Like, dude, let's go look at like thousands of customers that have said, dude, not only is Chris, but Solgen is taking care of me. Like, let's go read through that. Like, if I can help you feel comfortable that this is not going to be like a poor decision, that you're not going to regret it later, is that something that you'd feel comfortable moving forward today?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
And then I would do that. And so, you know, there's two reasons why people do not make a decision to go solar. And it all comes down to trust and enough information. Yeah. And the key word is enough. Yeah. Most guys give too much information, and so that they confuse their customer, right? Like they show up, they throw up, they sell features like equipment, 400 watt panels, this microinverter, whatever else, right? It's all about features. But what happens is the customer, you give them too much information. Too much information leads to confusion, and a confused buyer never buys. Right? So your goal is you have to have just enough information. You got to ask the questions to give them enough that makes them feel comfortable. And as long as they trust you, and they have to trust you in both, there's two different types of trust. You know what they are?
Trust the person, trust the company.
So no, it's actually trusting character and trust and ability. Okay. So like, and the difference is like, do you trust your grandma?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you trust your grandma operating open heart surgery on you?
No.
Those are the difference, right? So trust and character. Yeah, I love grandma. She's got great character. Trust and ability. No, I do not trust her cutting open my chest. Right. And so as a sales rep, you have to have both of those. You got to be a straight shooter, right? They have to trust your character, and then they have to trust you as the professional, that you actually know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about. And the way that you become a professional is you answer the questions they have, not the ones that you think that they have, right? And then that leads us to enough information, right? And someone with enough information will always make a decision, always. And so what a customer is telling you that when they want to think about it, is they're telling either one, you gave me too much information or not enough, or two, I don't trust you. That's it.
Yeah. No, I believe it. I actually had that last week. I didn't close a guy and I could tell he just didn't trust everything I was saying. And like, if you get to the end of the close, is it like, and they don't trust you, is it too late at that point?
It's never too late.
Okay.
It's never too late. Spend more time, get vulnerable, ask them for permission to hit them in the nuts.
Okay. Just like you just did.
Yeah. Just like, hey, Taylor, is it right if I shoot you straight? Look, dude, I'm not trying to make a buck or two today, but I feel like you don't trust me. What is it that I did in this presentation that lost your trust? That's what I would ask a customer.
That's good.
Like I would hit them. But you only can, if you ask those type of questions without first asking permission, you will question their intelligence and they will feel like it's a battle. As soon as I ask for your permission, it removes barriers, and all of a sudden I can do whatever the heck I want.
Yeah, that's money. Well, yeah, I think it goes back to just saying following the principle, because like I don't think that's a principle for me, and so many other people, they just they get a couple no's and give up. But like for you just know for sure you're gonna do it, so you keep walking them through it.
Yep.
I like it.
I never give up. Like I will spend whatever time that is necessary for them to make a decision, whatever. If it's 30 minutes, 3 hours, 30 hours, I will not leave. I'll sleep on their couch until they make a decision.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And most people don't have, the cojones to like call people out and get vulnerable with them.
But once again, it goes all back to, am I willing to take a no? Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want a decision. That is your one and only job as a salesperson, is to get a decision, nothing else.
Yeah. I know it's funny because so many people do that. Like example I see all the time is when we're setting up these appointments, knocking doors, we're supposed to try to get a bill, right? Their utility bill.
Yeah.
But all these new reps that train, they're like just so scared to get a bill because like, oh, if I try to push and have them get a bill, they're gonna cancel the appointment, and they say, "Nah, forget about it." But yeah, it's
and that goes to one of my other principles, which is quit lying to yourself. Most guys don't follow the rules because they would rather lie to themselves, like about having an appointment, than doing the required to get there. So, but yeah, we can talk about some of the principles at another time.
Yeah, no, that's good. How many principles are there?
There's 4 principles.
Okay, all right. Well, we didn't want to make this an all-day podcast, but no, it's cool. Before I forget, Chris, if people do want to follow you, listen to your podcast, hopefully they are already, where's the best place to like follow you?
Yeah, so Instagram at Chris Lee QB, like quarterback, and then I'm Chris Lee QB on all major platforms. I kind of suck at TikTok and Twitter, but I'm there. Yeah. The Founder podcast, and that's a singular, the Founder podcast. You can find me on all major platforms: Apple, Spotify, YouTube. I'm just starting to build my YouTube following, but my Spotify, you can see the visual and stuff. I had like close to 200,000 watch hours last month. Wow. So yeah, awesome. Pretty sweet.
That's cool. And where do you see this going? You got your podcast. I know you're doing some mastermind groups.
Yeah. So for me, like, I'm just passionate about changing people's lives and educating them. And I believe that the number one way to change the world is through the entrepreneur, that the entrepreneur has the most influence in the world. And a sales rep, I would put in that same category, because they're interacting, they're changing lives, they're, and you see it, they either do it for the good or the worse, right? Like money empowers, it magnifies who you really are. And so I'm all about magnifying, so it's partnering with businesses, consulting, coaching, and changing the world through entrepreneurship.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, last question. I know you recently did a podcast on this, but like we mentioned before, your network is just one of the best networks I've seen for sure. And not too many people can be in the room with the Alex Hermosis, the Grant Cardones, all these massive influencers. So guys can listen to your podcast, but what are some quick tips on just like being able to build a network and get in the room with some of these big names like you've done?
Quick thing on networking. One, you've got to it takes a lot longer than you realize, right? Yeah. But two, you got to always ask to be in the room, ask to be for the introduction, ask for those different type of things. But more importantly than asking is the most important thing, which you have to start with giving it, and don't make it transactional. Don't give, ask, give, ask, give, ask. Yeah. My ratio is I have to give 5 times before I ask for something, right? And so whenever I meet somebody new, I'm always trying to connect them. Like if I know what you're looking for, hey, what's important to you? What are you trying to do? Yeah. And if I can serve and be of value to somebody that I see has a lot of value, or really anyone, I don't care where they're at on the value chain, whether they're just starting out or whatnot, I want to serve them. Yeah. And without expectation of getting anything back. Yeah. Like that is the number one key to building, but also being okay to ask every once in a while, like, hey, is it all right if I come with you, or is it all right to hang out or whatever? And then last but not least, spend money. Like I've spent $1 million or close to $1 million on my personal education, being in the right room. I'm in the right room at Harvard Business School with the Owner's President's Management Program. I'm in the right room with masterminds. Like I spend the money to be with the right people. Yeah. And, I pay to play, and you pay to play in one of two ways. You either pay with resources, which is money, or you pay with time and energy, right? All three are forms of payment, as going back to the sales thing, right? Yeah. Mr. Customer, I'm here to help you save because you pay for things with time, energy, and money. I'm helping you save that. That's how you earn anything too. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be just cash out, serve people, give energy, right? Like put in the time. That's how you're going to build a sweet network.
Love it. Love it. Yep. So there you have it. That's how you get in the room with the big dogs. And guys, go shoot Chris a follow if you're not already listening to his podcast. I know you talk about all aspects of things. I mean, you just had a guy that came and talked about relationships. So it's not just about necessarily like selling the business. You're talking a lot about different things, right? So go shoot it a follow, and it's always a good time having you on. We'll see where you go next. So hopefully we can do one before 3 years next time and see what's going on next. But thanks for coming on with us.
Appreciate it. Thanks, my man.
All right.